Hello, everybody. Welcome to the MMAVCast. I'm your host, Maverick King. I'm joined on the other end of the world by my good brother, Remington. We're going to talk about UFC 128 coming up a week from Saturday. It's going to be very interesting. Of course, headlined by John Jones taking on Mauricio Shogun Hua. But we're going to talk about all five fights because they are all five amazing fights on this card. First off, we have legendary heavyweight bout going on with Mirko Cro Cop taking on Brendan Schwab. This is an interesting fight for so many reasons, mainly for the sole fact, if any, that Mirko is really old. He's old, but everyone always thinks that Cro Cop is done. He's finished. And last year especially, everyone thought he was done, and he won 2 fights back-to-back before losing a horribly boring fight to Frank Mir. So this is an interesting one. Remy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like you said, and you always say how Mirko's that guy who wins when he needs to, kind of like a Stephan Bonner kind of a character who sometimes they'll go on losing streaks, sometimes they lose bad, and so I think this is the kind of guy that Mirko would bounce back against. And Schaub obviously doesn't have the most perfect chin in the world, but I think I was watching actually Schaub's last fight with Gabriel Gonzaga, and he couldn't finish Gabriel, which is very interesting because Gabriel is a guy who's proved to be very easily finished sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, his jabs are very he has very crisp and good jabs, but he's very unsure when he's supposed to explode, and just start swinging. He's very awkward when he does that sometimes. Not one kick. In the entire Gabriel Gonzaga fight, he did not throw one kick. Not leg kicks, not head kicks, not nothing. And so I think that Mirko's going to easily pick that apart and just starts beating his legs up. And I don't think I've never seen him off his back. The only time I saw him on the ground was when he got knocked out by Roy Nelson. And so I think Mirko has and like Joe Rogan said many times, Mirko has a very underrated guard, and he has a very good guard. And I think that if it goes to the ground, Mirko would actually be able to submit him, in my opinion. But I think Mirko's going to be able to outlast and just kind of distance him and be able to take the unanimous decision win.
That's an interesting call. Unanimous decision is definitely something that not a lot of people expect, mainly because not a lot of people think Cro Cop's got this one. And let's give Brendan Schwab his credit. He's only been beaten by Roy Nelson. He's shown very dominant performances over his UFC career. But I like Cro Cop, and no one ever thinks that Cro Cop's going to do it. But I think Cro Cop will shock the world with a knockout. And I'm not just saying that because I like Cro Cop, but I think this is just one of those fights that you can't predict. And Cro Cop is going to throw that kick, and Schwab's not going to be ready for it. And I think we're going to see a legendary knockout coming. But anyway, we'll see. All right, next fight is going to be Yoshihiro Akiyama taking on Nate Marquardt. This is another interesting fight because both guys are at the lower end of their peaks pretty much as far as where you ride. Nate Marquardt coming off a tough loss that would have given him a title shot to Yushin Okami. And Yoshihiro Akiyama lost to Michael Bisping at UFC 120, and then he lost before that at UFC 116 to Chris Lieben. Both of those are tough losses because they were great fights, but at the same time, he's got to win. He's a great fighter. He stands in front and bangs with guys, but he's got to manage to pull off a win because he's 1-2, could easily be 0-3, and as we've heard a million times from Dana White, Dana always says, hey, this guy is a star in Japan. Problem with that is he might be a star there, but he keeps losing fights. So if he manages to pull off a good win or even just a win to get himself back in the win column, I could see that I could see that Yoshihiro Akiyama is back in it. But I think Nate Marquardt's an excellent wrestler. He's had a couple tough fights, but I think that he's going to bounce back in this one, and I see.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you, in the fact that Marquardt is definitely a better wrestler, and because he's so much bigger, because Akiyama's kind of a smaller guy. He's like 5'11", and Nate Marquardt, you look at him, he's like 6'1", and but he's so stocky. He's so stocky and so big, and I think he's going to be able to really control. If it goes to the ground, he'll really smother Akiyama. But And there's no way. I mean, we've all seen how amazing Akiyama's chin is. And the last time he got knocked out, well, he got officially knocked out a long time ago, like maybe I think it was late 90s. But he got knocked out a couple fights back, but it turned out to be no contest because the late rules were later changed. But then again, the guy was fighting was 265 pounds. Anyway, point is, his chin is way better than Mardcourt's punching power, in my opinion. And but I think his style, his stand up is he has a very, very good stand up. But I see I don't know if he'll have the cardio to go 3 rounds, but like in the Lieben fight, he really didn't have. He just kind of dwindled and stuff. But anyhow, I see Mardcourt just mainly controlling it on the ground, and not doing too much stand up. And so yeah, I would pick like you, Nate, by unanimous decision.
Next bout we're going to be talking about is the Jim Miller taking on Kamal Shaloris. Now, Kamal Shaloris is not a big name fighter, but Jim Miller coming off a very impressive victory. And I don't want to talk about this one too long, mainly because I think Jim Miller's going to win this one, and he's going to propel himself up the ranks as he has been doing in the lightweight division. He's a very tough fighter. Remy, what's your take?
Yeah, I would definitely. I don't think Kamal has enough to bring it to the plate, and Jim Miller coming off an awesome knee bar victory. And I think he's going to actually try to showcase this one because, as he said like before in his last fight, he's really looking to step up to the plate, and he's looking for that title shot. I don't think he's not close enough, but if he can pull off a big win, not just a unanimous decision win, which is what I think will happen, but if he can pull off a big win, I think that'll probably put him up higher on because the lightweight division is very, very stacked, and so he's trying to make a name for himself and trying to stick himself out there so he's well known and stuff. So, but his jiu-jitsu is really so good, and Kamal Shaloris is just, I mean, his resume just doesn't add up to it. So I see Jim Miller probably just controlling it. I don't see him submitting him, but I see him controlling it on the ground, getting that unanimous decision win.
Yeah, I would have to agree. All right, and in the co-main event of the evening, bantamweight fight happening with Uriah Faber making his UFC debut, taking on Eddie Winland. Now, Uriah Faber, former champion, I think he will soon retake that title. Uriah Faber, I think, definitely on his way to a title fight. Eddie Winland, on the other hand, he's a good fighter, but Uriah just looked so impressive in his last fight when he sunk in the rear naked choke. I see the same thing happening here. I think he's going to pummel and try to finish this one early, and I think we're going to see a first-round submission.
I have the exact same thing. That's my prediction as well. Faber by first-round submission, and I think that because he's just such a skilled jiu-jitsu player, like you just said, in his last fight with Mizugaki, he just totally, I thought he killed him when he sucked that in so deep. But Winland is a good wrestler, and as we have seen in the past, wrestlers have a tendency to get submitted a lot of times because it's just so they fall back into their old ways. They both have really good stand-up. I think Faber has even better stand-up. And, yeah, just overall, I think Faber is more talented and just has wherever the fight takes place, I think he has advantage. And, like I said, I agree with you, and I think Faber by first-round submission.
Very interesting. All right, now, Remy, what do you think what we're going to see from the headline fight, light heavyweight fight, taking on John Jones and Mauricio Shogun Hua?
Man, that is such a tough fight to call. I mean, I think I'm going to say what most people hate me for, but that's okay. I think, well, the thing is, Shogun has been training to go 5 rounds. Jones has not, okay? He had such little time to be able to train for this, and because he obviously has time to had to have time to recover, and then he has to have time to train again for 5 rounds instead of 3. His body has got to be falling apart. I really there's no way his body's completely ready for 5 rounds. I don't think so. Shogun, I definitely think. I mean, as we saw with Shogun's last fight, or last 2 fights actually, his game plans are good. He has good game plans, and I think his game plan he'll have a better one than Jones, whatever that may be. I think Jones is probably going to try to finish him fast, which I think is probably going to be a mistake, and I think he's going to regret it. Both are good on the ground. Jones is more of a wrestler, whereas Shogun's more of a jiu-jitsu player. Jones has a great jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong, but Shogun is a black belt, and so I mean, the only time he's been submitted was by Forrest Griffin in a rear naked choke, but he's also a black belt. So Jones obviously not going to be able to pull off a submission. I think Jones is too young. Just overall, like everyone's talking about the hype the hype that he's bringing, and he's like, oh no, rising to stardom. But he's really like not that. He doesn't have a lot of experience, and he hasn't fought the best guys. I mean, the jump from Bader to Shogun, that's a huge leap that he's gonna have to cover. And just talent-wise, and I think Shogun, I think he's gonna try to finish it and pay the price, and he's gonna get second round TKO.
I think that's an interesting prediction. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we do not try to prep ourselves to agree on everything. In fact, I would have preferred if we disagreed on some fights, but we have very similar points of view. So, needless to say, we both agree. As far as I think John Jones he's getting the same thing GSP is, and GSP right now is getting bombarded with questions about his next fight, not the imminent fight going to happen in April, but the one that might happen when he fights Anderson Silva. And everyone's asking him about that fight, and he keeps having to throw off these questions that he's been getting about whether or not he's going to be ready to fight Anderson Silva. And it's distracting. I think it's very distracting. And John Jones is getting that with everyone asking him if he's going to fight Rashad Evans if he wins. And I just don't. I think all this rush of media that John Jones is getting, all this rush of questions, trying to prepare for a 5-round fight against one of the most deadly fighters in the world with Mauricio Shogun Hua. I think Hua is ready, and he's already fought in several 5-round fights, and Jones has not. And I think we're going to see John Jones not good. If they both were given the equal amount of time to prepare, I think John Jones could very well take out Shogun, but I don't see it happening this time. I think Shogun's, as of right now, a better fighter, and I see him gonna just do what he did against Machida, pick him apart, or the first fight, pick him apart for 5 rounds, and I think we're gonna see a unanimous 5-round decision from Mauricio Shogun Hua.